So, Claudia Gamoneda, welcome to One Community, Many Voices interview process. Thanks very much for volunteering to tell us your story, because you have a very compelling story about being not just a Latina American and the child of fairly recent immigrants, but you have the perspective of a new resident to the area and a business person. Tell me a little bit more about how it was that your family came to this area.
Well, my mom, my sister, and I moved to the Madison area about 13 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And we kind of always came around the Monona area just to eat at different places or whatever. We always loved eating everywhere and a little bit of everything. And when we met my dad, Vicente, we started kind of coming more around to this area because he had a business here.
Sure.
On Monroe Drive, where it was Emian's Bakery.
Okay.
Then we kind of gravitated away for it for a while once that closed, and then came back 2.5 years ago now.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Sure.
we like the area. It's really nice and calm.
Yeah. I think that's something that a lot of the subjects for our interviews and the community members say, is that there's a certain sense of not just peacefulness in the community, but there's something also about the natural and natural beauty.
Yeah, it's not as busy as we used to live on Park Street, and that is always busy with cars and honking and the police and everything. And over here, it's just a lot calmer. You don't hear quite as much of that, and it just seems more family oriented too.
Yeah.
There's a lot more family events going on that you hear about, and fundraisers and things at parks being held and all of that fun stuff. So it's a nice area to be in.
Sure. Did you happen to make it to the 4th of July Community Festival, or have you been?
We did not.
Okay.
we closed early that day, and then kind of all of us went home and knocked out.
We crashed.
Yeah, we were pretty tired.
I guess so. Yeah. So there's it's part of not just your culture, but your family business is around food preparation, and everybody knows that's a pretty grueling schedule.
It is.
Yeah. Is there something about that particular weekend, like the 4th of July weekend, that brings you that kind of a boom in business, or is it just part of the regular flow?
I think it's part of the regular flow, and then also since more people are coming to visit relatives, there's just more people around. So we had a lot of our regular customers bring in family members from out of the state or out of town, and they're like, hey, this is my cousin so-and-so, and it was really nice to see all of the families and more extended family come in.
Sure. That's got to be really fulfilling. That that you're not just a business in the community, it's like a gathering point and a meeting point.
It is, and we've made a lot of friends from people that I don't even refer to them as customers anymore, because we see them all the time. And actually yesterday we had a lady come in, and she's been coming in pretty regularly now. And she came in and she brought us cookies. Yeah. And she's like, this is a little weird that I'm bringing the baker cookies, but I made you guys cookies.
Aw, she wanted to know that. She wanted to show her appreciation and make a connection to you.
It was really sweet, and they were very tasty cookies.
I bet. That's good to know, too. Okay. So tell me where you and your parents were born.
So my mom and I were born in Honduras. Mm-hmm. My little sister was actually born in New York, and my dad was born in Mexico.
Sure. Okay. And how was it that you and your mom made it to this part of the country?
So about 13 years ago, my mom got a divorce.
Yeah.
And we actually went to Honduras for her to get her divorce, because there was a lot of difficulties with trying to get it here in the U.S. at that time for her, because she didn't have a big family here. We were mainly just with my dad's side of the family at that point, so we went back to Honduras for her to get a divorce, and she didn't want to go back to New York.
Yeah.
And she had a sister here in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So we figured, let's go somewhere where we have at least one family member.
Yeah.
So we came here and we stayed here. It's been nice.
Good. So you so it's you've been willing to represent your parents' point of view about what it was like to come to this part of the country, and that gives me some really good insight about what it must have been like for your mom and for you. And I wonder if you could speak about your dad and how he got here.
So he doesn't speak too much about how he necessarily got to Wisconsin. He just mainly talks about being here already. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how he got here.
Yeah.
But he says that when he came here, he was one of the few Latinos that were here, and he's like, there wasn't a lot going on for Latino food or bakery or anything. He talks about how Fitchburg was like half the size that it is now. Yeah. He's like, there was barely anything, and he's told me about how when he first started trying to communicate with other people, trying to learn more English, he was like, it was really hard because I didn't know how to go about it. It's like it was, you go from only speaking in Spanish in Mexico to all of a sudden there's so few people that speak Spanish here that it's a shock.
Right, that's a huge adjustment.
Yeah.
Do you know how it is that he chose the place that he settled?
No, I'm not really sure. No, I know he got married and he had a son with him, my older brother.
Yeah.
And then him and his wife had a baby. Yeah. And so I think it was just him trying to find a place that was as common as family oriented as possible.
Right.
So, like I said, Wisconsin in general seems like a just nice family state to be in.
Yeah, that is what I hear, from people, whether their heritage is actually American and European or elsewhere. It does seem as though, and Monona in particular, this particular part of the state seems to be a really good draw, and it seems to provide people with the resources that they need. Do you know anything about how it was that he got into business with the first business?
He's told me that he's always loved to bake.
Yeah.
He started baking in Mexico when he was 16. He said he got into a bakery over there and then just went from station to station trying to learn everything he could. So he just wanted to have something that was his own. We were actually talking about this, I think not even 2 weeks ago. Where he used to work for Tomas, who is the owner of La Concha, but back when he had La Paella in Fitchburg. And he worked with him for 13 years, and then Tomas decided that he was going to sell the place. So my dad was like, I want to open up a bakery that does bakery items like in Mexico.
Yes.
So he decided to open up his bakery, and the first one that he opened was, if I remember correctly, the one on the west side.
Okay.
And then he got into the one over here in Monona because the owner of Emian's, I don't remember if he said he was wanting to retire and sell or something along those lines. And he's just like, I knew I liked to bake. He's like, I knew I wanted something for my own.
Yeah.
The opportunity came up and I just jumped on it.
Yeah.
And then he just stuck with it.
Yeah. We've heard yours in your family is one of them, some really, really inspiring stories about just the drive and the desire and the dedication and the diligence and and just the plain old work, hard work. And yet it seems to bring people a certain amount of joy. That's the other thing. Can you see that reflected in the work?
I can.
In some ways? Yeah.
Again, he really likes what he does. He's really happy doing what he does. I mean, before we opened the bakery here in Monona, he was working 3 jobs. And, he would get home for about an hour and sleep. Or he'd maybe be home for 2 and he'd say, okay, am I going to sleep? Am I going to shower? Or am I going to eat?
Yeah.
Or I can pick 2, I can't pick 3. And that's what... He would just be so tired and frustrated. And we do get tired. We do get frustrated. But it's a different kind because he knows this is mine. This is something that I'm doing. And he's happy doing what he does.
Great.
I mean,
great.
I don't see him as just down as I used to before.
Right.
But it's the same with my mom. She always wanted her own business. She always wanted to have something of her own. So when they saw this opportunity and she was She was actually the one to convince him to open up another place.
Okay, good. He had
So-
an advocate, someone on his side. That's great. Did she bring any food experience, like production experience, or just how did she contribute?
So she had never really cooked in a restaurant or bakery type of setting before.
Mm-hmm.
Back when we lived in New York, she used to make food to sell on the weekends. She would work all the Friday night and make just pots and pots of Honduran tamales, or she would actually make cakes. She's like, they weren't pretty, but they tasted good. And so we lived on a first floor apartment in the Bronx, and she would sell from her window the tamales and the cakes and anything that she could make. She would make it and sell it, and so she knew how to cook. But when we opened here, she was like, it's very different when you have like all of the actual equipment to do everything. She's like, it's great. She's like, I don't have, because before when we made the tamales, she would stand me up on a little stool so that I could mix the masa while she was doing something else, and she's like, I don't have to make you do that anymore. I'm like, I don't need a stool anymore anyways.
Can you set that time for me? So in what year would that have been in New York, selling from the window?
2001, 2000, actually no, probably closer to 2002, 2003.
Okay. Yeah, it's in terms of history, that's not that long ago, but things have changed a lot in the last 20 years. Yeah. So, were you involved in the original opening of the location that you have right now?
I was.
Okay.
I actually helped them do a lot of the research for permits and for the locations. I went with them to different locations because we had a couple different places that we thought this is going to work here.
Sure.
And then when we opened up here in Monona Drive, I helped them with setting the menu up and the social media pages, all of that good stuff. And I'm actually still the one that handles all of the social media. And
Nice.
I work at the front. And
Yeah.
do a lot of the paperwork. It's turned into like an all-family affair. My little sister does a lot of paperwork and all of the other stuff too. Like we kind of just split it all among ourselves. And she helped too. She came around and went to tours of the buildings with us before we decided on Monona.
Okay. And what was it about Monona that made it a good choice for the business?
Well, my dad had been in that same exact spot before.
Okay.
So he actually already knew the landlord. And he knew the area already pretty well. He said that he knew that there was a really nice community here that was really open to different types of businesses and food. So he's just said, this is a place where I've been before, I'm comfortable with.
Right.
I like it. It's not too big, not too small. It just seems like it opened up at the right spot.
Yeah.
And at the right time. So we just took it because of that.
Okay. The location has been open, do you think, about 2 years? A little bit more?
A little bit over 2 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause we opened February of 2017.
Sure. Okay. Did the business have a different name before, or did you start with what you have now?
Our original idea was Mi Casa, my home.
Right.
But we were told it would just be easier to name it Monona Bakery and Eatery. They're like, that way you can't really not find it because it's on Monona Drive and the name is Monona.
Exactly.
So we ended up just opening with that. Technically our legal name is Monona Eatery and Bakery, but the sign people decided to put Monona Bakery and Eatery.
Okay. So that's what it is. All right, right. And it's in a strip mall.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is it like having a business now in a strip mall? So the reason I asked you that question is because the age of the buildings in that sort of row along where your business is I'm thinking almost 50 years old now. So we've moved on from strip mall development as a model, and so it can be kind of a struggle for people to go into a space that hasn't been established and used for a while. Had this space been occupied when you found it?
It had. So there had been another bakery there up until about a year before we grabbed it.
Yeah.
So it hadn't been empty for too long.
Oh.
It was very dusty.
Yeah.
I think we spent about 3 months just doing cleaning.
Yeah.
Because if the landlord didn't need to be in there, they weren't going to go in there. So things weren't as nice as they should have been, but they weren't as bad as if it had been sitting alone for a couple more years.
Sure.
So it wasn't terribly difficult.
Okay. But
it wasn't easy.
Yeah. And that's why I asked you, because I'm not sure that everybody, first of all, most people have not started a small business before, and it isn't obvious how much prep work is going on behind and before, and
it's
definitely
so
after. Yeah.
It is just so much. Before we started the process, I didn't think it was going to be that much. I was like, we'll just get the permits, do a quick cleaning, get the merchandise in, and we're good.
Yeah.
But we started the process, I think it was in May of 2016, and then we didn't open until February of 2017.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to postpone the opening because my dad had an accident, so we had to postpone it for that too, but even if we hadn't postponed it for that, we still wouldn't have opened until December of 2016 instead. So it's still several months of just trying to get everything in there, because you have to, like I said, get the permits, but there's a lot of going downtown, a lot of paying for all of these fees. You have to get the inspection in, the merchandise, and then you have to make sure everything is perfectly clean up to code.
Exactly.
You have to replace all the flooring, all of the walls have to be painted.
Yeah.
There was so much work that needed to be done, and we got very lucky that we had a lot of friends that helped us do a lot of it without charging us. They were like, no, we just want to make sure that you guys open up, and that you're good to go, and like, they come by and they get free food now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's great. Yeah, because you've built a sense of community. People, besides the personal investment that you have and the integrity that you gain by, it's obvious that this family and this business cares about what they're doing. You're contributing to the thriving business culture in Monona. Did you go through your permitting process with the city of Monona or with the city of Madison, or?
Technically, we're on the Madison side on that road, so we had to go through it all with the city of Madison.
Okay.
And that was not as fun as I thought it would be.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised. And I appreciate your candor about that, because it's not just an ethnically diverse community. The boundaries of the community are not fixed by lines drawn on a map, and I understand from people that is a significant challenge. Is that it'd be so great if your business had fallen inside of Monona city limits, you might not have struggled as much. But yeah, just that, again, it speaks to the dedication that you're willing, to go up against that, because I know that it's it's one of the biggest strains against barriers to opening a new business is
just trying to figure out where you have to go for everything.
Yeah.
And it was really weird too, because sometimes when we were going through all the paperwork, they would say, okay, you have to get the fire inspection from the Monona Fire Department. But I'm like, but technically we're in Madison, so is it Madison or is it Monona? They're like, well, let's double check. I'll get back to you. And then we'd wait a week, and then they'd be like, okay, I guess it was Madison. And then when the fire inspector showed up, they showed up in a truck that said Monona on the side. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on anymore, but as long as we get the inspection, let's go through the process.
You got it.
It's fine.
Yeah. So once your business model, you got the premises, and then can you talk a little bit about how you decided what it was that you would offer?
Well, my dad knew for sure he wanted to do the bakery side. And originally the plan was just to do baking and just the cakes and the bread. And then we were going to do just like lunch items and breakfast. So we were going to do like pancakes and sandwiches. But my mom was really adamant that she's like, we don't have any Honduran food in this area. We don't have any Honduran food in Madison and Fitchburg and Middleton. Anywhere in Monona, there's just nowhere to get it.
Yeah.
So she started saying, okay, we're going to do specials on the weekends. I said, okay, let's do specials on the weekends. We do 2 or 3 specials. And then people would show up during the week. Hey, do you have that special you ran last week? And I would be like, I still have materials to make it. If you give me 15 minutes, I'll make it for you.
Yeah.
And then it just kept snowballing and snowballing until I had a full menu where I was like, everybody's coming in for these items. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I think about 6 months after we opened, we had the Latino menu in place where I was just like, we just need to have this all of the time because people are showing up for this mainly because they're interested. They haven't seen it anywhere else, so they want to try it. Awesome. They kept coming back for it and coming back, and it's grown. It started out being like 5 or 6 things, and now it's like 12 or 15. I'm not even sure anymore. But it's a lot more.
It's a very rich menu. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different offerings, a variety in there. How did you decide what business hours you would keep?
It was kind of a trial run for the first couple of months. At first, we were opening very, very early. So we were opening at 6 in the morning, and we were closing at 9 p.m. But we realized people were not showing up until 7:30 or 8. So we're like, let's sleep in a little more. Yeah. And then people weren't really coming in after 8, so let's leave earlier so we can sleep a little more. It kind of revolved around us trying to get more rest. Right. And then we realized that Tuesday was a day where people just were not really out and about, so we decided let's give ourselves one day off to just kind of do whatever else needs to be done. If we need to go do grocery shopping or even if it's just so that we can go out and like have lunch together, all of us. Let's just have one day that we're closed, and that's kind of how we narrowed it down. Just trial and run. Does this hour work? No? Okay, let's move it a little forward. Let's move it a little back, whatever it may be. And now the hours that we have seem to be working really good for us, so I think we're going to be keeping them for the future.
Good. Yeah. Maybe get some more rest.
Maybe. Maybe. We'll see.
Okay. So, let's talk a little bit more about, I don't know. Let's talk about, you spoke a little bit more about how your mom's Honduran and why she may have decided to leave and what you do know about your dad's past. And a little bit about why Monona was a choice. Do you have an example of a non-business challenge that your family or that you have faced living here?
Here in Wisconsin particularly?
You could say. Yeah, Wisconsin, you could, yes. Yeah.
Well, when we first moved here, my mom had a lot of difficulty with finding work. Just because she's not very confident in her English. Right. And the same goes for my dad. He's not very confident in his English. If he has to talk it and if she has to talk it, they will go for it and they'll throw themselves into it. But if they can avoid it, they will. Yeah. So it kind of posed some difficulties for her when she first got here because most workplaces obviously require you to speak some form of English. Yeah. So she had to get over that fear of not being understood by people. Right. Just so that she could get a job because single mom with 2 kids, you need an income. Yeah. And my dad hasn't really had too much trouble finding work just because he's such a friendly person that literally everywhere we go, he knows somebody. When I was younger, we actually used to play a game, and I was like, we'll see how many people you meet today that you know, and for every person, you owe me $5. So by the time we got back home, I'd be like, that was $50 for today. He'd just look at me like, you're not getting $50.
Oh. So you were a smart businesswoman already.
I was trying, but it wasn't working.
Oh, man. Okay.
I should have billed ahead of time. But
yeah, I think that's a common challenge. Another story that I frequently hear and something that I notice in my own work is the kids come along with the parent the non-English speaking parent or the not quite bilingual parent to do a lot of support. Were you in that position?
I was.
Yeah.
We did a lot of that, just because my little sister was too little to translate.
Right.
So it was always me. And we came across areas where they'd be like, it's okay that your daughter's bilingual and that she can talk for you, but like when we went to doctor's appointment, we need to have a translator because she doesn't know the terms, the medical terms or whatever it may be, and just for legal purposes, we need to have a translator. My mom wouldn't like that. She's like, I don't want random people knowing what's going on with our family.
So private, yes.
And it's one of those things where it's like, unfortunately, we have to get over that because that's just the way that things are set up for this system.
Sure.
I mean, and as we got along further, she got more comfortable, so we didn't need the translator because she'd see them coming and she's like, I don't need it, I'll just talk in English.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay.
But in the beginning, it was always like, I don't want these people in here.
Yeah, that's normal, I think. And so at that point in your life, were you living in New York or here?
It was here.
It was actually here, okay.
Yep. When we were in New York, New York has so many Spanish-speaking people that you didn't need a translator when you went because most of the doctors already knew Spanish anyways.
Right.
It's such a Latin diverse state, especially in the Bronx.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
ridiculous how many different cultures you can find down there.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Here it's not like that. Especially for the Honduran community. Has your mom been able to make connections in the Honduran community?
We've met a lot more Honduran people here than we thought.
Yeah.
Originally, we only really knew my aunt, and then she had married a Honduran man while she was here. And so we met like his family, we knew about it, and we knew there were areas where there were more Honduran people living here in Wisconsin, but we didn't really, we were always very, like, not hermits per se, but we didn't go out a lot.
Yeah.
She wasn't very comfortable with going out because back in Honduras she wasn't allowed to.
I hear you.
So we didn't go out and meet as many people as now. We get so many Honduran people coming into the restaurant.
Okay.
And she's just like, it's so nice to see how many Honduran people are here. And like they come in, they're like, hey Doña, how are you? And then she like goes off for like 5-10 minutes and my dad's over there in the back going, she does realize that we need to cook, right? And I'm like, just let her have her fun.
Let her connect. That's really great. I'm glad that the community has been able to provide that for her. Yeah, because I think that we hear a lot of stories about feelings of isolation, especially from Central American immigrants, because we are not attracting that, and it is not the same thing to be Mexican American.
Than to be like Honduran or Nicaraguan. Apparently there's a pretty big Nicaraguan community too, and they've actually gravitated a lot towards us too because the food's very similar. So it's really nice just to like meet other people from like other Latin American countries. We've met a lot of people from El Salvador, met a lot of people from Guatemala. I mean, it's been just really nice to kind of like branch out and meet other people from maybe kind of similar areas, but just a little bit of a different culture. Yeah. Like we've learned some new things too.
Sure.
And it's just nice.
Has it influenced your menu or your food choices at all?
In a way, a little bit. We've started gravitating more towards like putting a little bit more like vegetarian options and stuff because we get a lot of like Latinos that come in. They're like, well, we don't eat meat anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And we're like, okay, let's figure this one out. Because or at least I'm very meat heavy. Yeah. My mom's more vegetable heavy. She can go a meal without meat. I usually can't.
Yeah.
But we've been kind of trying to put more vegetarian options in with the Latin menu too, just because I think a lot of Latin America is starting to go more towards the vegetarian and vegan option. We've met a lot of Latinos that are vegan now, and I didn't realize that was something that had made its way down to Central and South America.
Right, yeah.
Because it's just something that we're like, I don't think it's going to make it down there, but it is.
It is. And interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. Can you tell me some food-related memories that you have about, holidays or preparation of food or anything like that?
Well, I remember for Christmas every year we would make the Honduran tamales, and that was an ordeal. Just because they're very difficult to make. They're a very long process to make.
Oh.
Very, very long.
Yeah.
But it was always fun. We would always end up like stealing like olives or like little pieces of meat and just like run off. My mom would be like, "Why am I missing this?" Well, I don't know. Why did you make it so tasty? Or like for my birthday or my little sister's birthday, she would always like make us a cake. It was always the Honduran version of the tres leches.
Oh, okay.
But
how's it different?
it's a dry cake.
Okay.
Which is not really the traditional tres leches that most people think of, because the traditional one that they think of is the soaked one.
Right.
But it's made a little different, and it has more of a meringue for a frosting instead of like the whipped cream.
Right.
So she would always make those, and those were always fun, and she hasn't made one of those in a couple of years, so I should get on her for that one.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, well, it's kind of my fault.
Oh, yeah?
My dad makes a really good tiramisu, so for every birthday we're just like, can you make that cake?
a little competition there for specialty.
Yeah, she's like, but she's not mad about it. She still gets to make the food.
Oh,
but
yeah.
he just makes the baked stuff now.
Okay. How, you might not know a whole lot about his upbringing, or do you know why he chose the kind of baked goods that he did?
He just said those were the ones that he was able to learn the easiest, and that he got to just know better. He learned a lot of Mexican bakery while he was in Mexico, but he said a lot of it just didn't stick. He said just because everything looks like it would be from the same dough. He's like, but every single thing is a different dough.
Yeah.
Everything has a different process. He's like, and it's very, very time consuming. He's like, while more European bakery, he's like, you can use the same dough for a couple different things. In the process, you can create little shortcuts.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, most people say to make a croissant, you need all day. He's like, I can make croissants for you in 3 hours, and they're perfect. You can't tell the difference. And so he's like, so it's just easier for me with what we have. What we have is like just the easiest things that I was able to learn and the things that I was able to master the best.
Yeah.
But he says he wants to do more. He wants to bake other things. He wants to do more Mexican bakery too, but he's just like, I'm just not as confident in it as I wish I was.
Sure.
So
But it sounds like that will come.
It will. It will. He says he just needs more time.
Yes.
And that's fine. And he needs a little more help with the baking process.
Okay.
And we're working on that too.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's been a relatively positive experience for you to not only be working in here in the community, but to be living here. You and your partner, do you live in Monona or in Madison or Middleton, I think you said?
Yep, we just recently moved to Middleton. We were in Fitchburg before, but we moved to Middleton 3 months ago.
Yeah.
My parents have been in Monona for about 2 years now, though.
Okay.
And my little sister, since she's still in high school, lives with them.
Okay. So she's in the school system here. Which school does she go to?
She's actually not in Monona's school system.
Got it. No problem.
I went to West, and she said that she wanted to go to the same high school I did.
Of course.
She's like, I want to go to the same school, and I want to know all of the same teachers and see if they have anything to say about you.
That's her motivation. Really interesting. That's funny.
Really? Because we were actually going to transfer her over to Monona Grove, but she said that she wanted to stick to West because she had friends over there.
Yeah.
She's just like, I don't want to start new.
Sure.
So
Sure.
we let her stay over there.
Yeah. And I think that's a really common story too. Not just in the immigrant community in Monona, but there's, the boundaries are not set, and that's all. That's such a big part of our story about One Community, Many Voices, is that Monona is a cultural center that's drawing from all kinds of what we used to call bedroom communities, and there's people working here but living in a different place, and the kids are going to a different school, and so that's a really common story. Your family should feel reassured that they're going to fit in. That's how it goes. And you and your husband, so you work for the family business. What about your husband?
He works in a bakery and cafe and event space in Middleton.
Yeah.
We're actually living about a block away from his job now.
Terrific.
So, yeah, he works over in Common Ground in Middleton.
Oh, sure.
He actually did help us out when we first opened here, Winona Bakery. He would come in the mornings to open up with me and would help serve food and bring customers up and all of that stuff while I would run to the back and cook. He's actually more of the cook in the family
okay.
between the two of us, but he doesn't do Latin cooking.
Okay.
He's from Sheboygan and he's like half Dutch, and there's like German and I don't know what else in the other side of the family.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really do Latin cooking just
Right.
because he's like, it's not my culture, it's not what
Sure.
I'm used to.
Sure.
He's more used to doing like sandwiches and burgers and
Yeah.
all of that other stuff. So he wouldn't want to go to the kitchen because he's like, what if I mess up the dish?
Yeah. Leave it to the experts. I understand. Yeah. But that's a shared interest, and he understands your work in that way. Yeah, and he's in the so I know a little bit about, is it Common Ground?
Common Ground.
A little bit about it. The business is a little bit more diverse because it's the meeting space, like you said, the event space, and then the bar aspect of it, and but you're both living the life, and that's got to have its own challenges.
It does.
Yeah. What's that been like for you?
It's been interesting. It's been rough.
Yeah.
When we first got together, I was working in the medical field and he was working in food. So my schedule was very set. I had my hours, my days. I knew exactly what days I was going to have off, what time I was going to have off.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like a manager or anything. He just was a cook. So he had his set hours. He knew his days off, and we would try to coordinate. We would have as much time together as possible, and it was really nice. But then when we opened up the bakery, my hours just kind of went haywire.
Yeah.
Because I was still working full-time. I was working at the UW hospital downtown, and so I was working full-time there, and then I was working part-time here.
Yeah.
And he was working full-time, if I remember correctly, at Yale Asylum.
Oh, yeah.
And he was working part-time here.
Yeah.
So we would see each other here.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the same as we get to go out and we get to have, time off or whatever. And then they opened up Common Ground, and he's the kitchen manager, chef combination.
And leadership there. Yeah.
He's there all the time. I'm in the bakery all the time.
Yeah.
So it's been just difficult to get time together, and there's weeks where we only see each other for maybe 20 hours in total.
Yeah.
But we're making it work.
Mm-hmm.
We're working towards the future. We're working towards being able to buy a home and start a family.
Okay.
So it'll be worth it. It's just not what I expected when I first got married.
Yeah. And again, that speaks to your dedication to one another, and not just the business, but your health and your happiness. And it's important.
I try.
Do you have, or does he have other family close by?
He has family members in Sheboygan and in Milwaukee. Those are the closest ones, and his brother is in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So we get to see them a couple times a year. Not as much as we wish we would. We're working on that too.
Yeah.
There's one like family event that happens every single year. There's a family pig roast in August. So we always try to go to that because that's where like all of the cousins and uncles get together. So at least we try to have that one time that we all meet together, or for Christmas. We know at least those days we get to see them.
Yeah.
It's just difficult in between to get up there.
Yeah, that's a challenge. So I was going to ask whether you think you can see a time in the Monona Bakery and Eatery future where it would be possible for you to, either you separate from your parents or your parents separate from you, to work in vacations and getting away.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it's a goal. Or
It's a goal. I don't know if it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Quite soon enough.
Yeah, exactly.
There's other plans that we have for the bakery too that I don't know how those are gonna play out.
Yeah.
With all of that, my parents eventually want to move back to Honduras.
Okay.
They want to open up a business over there and kind of have that like as their retirement plan.
Got it.
Yeah. So there's talk of my sister and I taking over the bakery.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to kind of work through that and see if that's gonna go through the way it's being sort of planned.
Yes.
Or if we're gonna go in a different direction and then we'll see what happens. Because it's a really big toss up. Like my mom right now, she's in Honduras, but she's down there for medical reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a vacation. We're making do, but it's kind of difficult.
Right.
Because it's like she's a very, very important part of the team.
Right.
She's one of the people that like she has all of the recipes in her head. She doesn't write them down.
Right.
It's a very Latino thing to do. You don't have recipes. You just put a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult with her gone, but we're working it out. And, it's one of those things where hopefully, but we're not going to stress too much about making sure it happens.
Yeah.
Just because it will when it does.
When it does. That thanks for sharing that personal perspective, because it's really important for people to hear your story, especially for people who don't know what it's like to run and operate in a small business, especially a family business, about what we'd call now succession planning. It seems as though in every generation the parents always hope to pass along what they've been able to build to the kids, and because of all of the promise that holds out, and to hear you articulate the kind of trade-off that's involved in that and the unknowns is really important. So I appreciate your telling.
I mean, there's a lot of unknown.
Yeah.
Like my sister doesn't necessarily want to stay in food.
Right.
She says she wants to either be a lawyer or interior designer.
There you go.
Or she's like, or I could do both.
Right.
I don't know. So it's one of those things where we have to decide what we want to do. Like I would be more than happy to take over, but I can't do it by myself.
Exactly.
And if my sister does it with me, but she wants to do something else, it would also be like I'm doing it by myself. So it's one of those things where we have to wait for her to graduate high school and decide what she wants to do.
Yep.
And then sit down and see, is it going to be something that's feasible, or are we just going to sell the bakery when they decide to go back to Honduras, and then maybe I'll stick around to help them run it, whoever buys the bakery here, or maybe I'll branch off and like build something of my own or build something with my husband instead. It's something that it could happen in a year or it could happen in 3 years, but there's still so many things that can happen in between that it's...
Yeah, life happens along the way.
Exactly. It's like playing the lottery. You never know what's going to happen. We could win, we could lose.
It could be. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. What are your interests? It looks, you're wearing a Brewers jersey right now, and I'm getting the impression you might be a fan. Yeah.
I am. I'm a little bit of an angry fan today, though.
All right, tell how.
Well, the Brewers have a Honduran born and raised player in the AAA, and one of the team members got injured, so he got called up.
Yep.
And I was very excited because I'm like, we're going to buy tickets for this Tuesday. We're going to go. I'm going to have like my Honduran flag with me. I'm going to see if I can get a picture and an autograph. This is so exciting because it's like the first Honduran born and raised player.
Yeah.
And then he got sent back.
What? Oh no.
He got sent back, I think it was on Sunday.
Oh God.
And I was like, it was just 2 days away. 2 days away from meeting him.
Geez.
And so we're still going to go to the game. I still like the Brewers.
Good, all right.
But I'm just like, I wanted to meet him.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's still a chance that he'll come back. But...
Sure, I guess so. Do you know why he got sent back?
Well, the other player is better.
Just the bad luck. Yeah, he recovered. Oh,
And I mean,
man.
good for him for recovering.
Well, yeah.
I just didn't want him to recover that fast.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So you're a baseball fan, and it sounds like is an interest that you share with your husband or rest of your family, or
He's the one that got me into it the most. I used to just like baseball.
Yeah.
And since we lived in the Bronx, we used to be fans of the Yankees.
got it.
And then I met him, and he was like, I love baseball. It's like, I love the Cubs, and I love the Brewers, and I love the Athletics. And then he listed off every single team but the Yankees.
Oh, no.
And I was like, so how do you feel about the Yankees? He's like, I hate the Yankees. They're the worst team in baseball. I'm like, this is going to be a very difficult relationship. But okay. And like, we started going to baseball games together. One of my first Christmas gifts for him was a pack of tickets to go see the Cubs. That's one of the ones that he loves so much. And then slowly but surely he started conditioning me towards baseball. He's like, let's listen to the game.
Yeah.
Let's watch the game. Let's go to this. Let's do that. And now we go to basketball games whenever we can, and we watch baseball whenever we can. And it's like,
How did this happen?
yeah, like I wasn't a big baseball fan before I liked it, but I wasn't this big of a fan.
And so do you have any interests that you transferred on him?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Think about it. Or do you have any other things about you? What are you really interested in?
Food.
Yeah. Trying it and making it. Yeah.
I really like to bake.
Yeah.
I have a big thing my thing is baking cupcakes.
Oh.
I love cupcakes.
Uh-huh.
Just because they're so fun, they're so little, and they're like, you can do so many different things with them. So I love that. So he's my guinea pig. Whenever I bake anything, he just sits there and he just eats away, and he's happy about that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, he's like, this is a perfect trade-off, because then he has to clean up after me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a smart woman. Excellent.
I love to bake. I just hate the cleanup. It's
Yeah.
not fun.
No.
But he does it, and he gets free food, so it's fine.
Sure.
I like that, and I like to read. Just whatever crosses.
A wide variety of things. Do you prefer fiction, or do you like to learn about certain things while you're reading?
I read a little bit of everything, honestly.
Yeah.
I know before I used to read a lot more science books. I used to be super, super interested in like astrology and like chemistry and all of that. Now I'm reading more like fantasy things.
Yeah.
Just because it takes you away from where you are, gives you it gives you a vacation without a vacation.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, baking is science, right? And you're obviously a real intelligent and creative person. And it's been a joy talking to you, Claudia.
Thank you.
So tell us, just for the sake of clarity, what are your parents' first and last names?
So my mom's name is Claudia Lorena Gamoneda.
Yes.
And my dad's name is Vicente Sacramento.
Yes.
And then my little sister is Wendy Liliana Gamoneda.
Okay, and your name is?
Claudia Jasenia Gamoneda. I share a first name with my mom and the last name.
Right. And you told me a little secret before we started recording, is that you're considering adding another or changing.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. My plan now is I'm gonna change my last name as a 5th year anniversary to my husband, because I keep putting it off every year. I'm like, I'm gonna do it next month. I'm gonna do it, and then 4 years have passed now.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 years. I've lost track.
Yeah.
It's too early to lose track.
No, it's a good sign. It means that time is flying. And
it is.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that'll be an excellent gift for him. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to talk with me.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.